Anyway, I figured I'd do a video instead, easier to show you how. So I have got a size 12 jig hook, 4.6 bead. A size 12, you can kind of see it that it goes okay with a 4.6, but it'll go better with a smaller bead. You could go up to a size 10 with this, and it would probably be a little better. The thing is, I don't fish size 10 jigs. I very rarely fish anything this big. Normally I'm a 14 down. But look, you can see how the offset slotted bead sits there. You can use a normal bead, but it will just look a bit odd and you'll have the scoop on the back. Other materials, black thread. This is 12-0. 8-0 doesn't make any difference. 8-0 is probably a bit better because you're building up a body, but I haven't got any left. I have got hollow orange tinsel, which we'll use for the tag. This is Coq de Leon. You get a little thing like that on it if it's a genuine Coq de Leon, Spanish. Coq de Leon's great, but you don't need to use it. You can use pretty much any feather. A couple of pheasant tail fibres. You can use a couple of teal fibres, mallard fibres, pretty much anything that's a bit webby and has got a decent length to it. And then I finish off with varnish. So the varnish, first thing is, if you get varnish with a brush in it, cut about 2/3 of the brush off because it's too big and you get varnish everywhere. Why use varnish? With a thread fly, if you use UV on it, it just all soaks into the fly, which is great, but you end up using a lot of UV and it's 18 quid a bottle. Varnish will soak in, it'll be just as good. It won't have quite the same polished look as a perdigon, but it works, and it works really well. So I'll just go through tie and fly. It doesn't take long. So we're on 2 minutes 20. Let's see how long this takes, right? So I'll first of all put on, and I'm going to try and do about 40 wraps. I think it will take to trap the hook in there. It's just stopped moving. You can see it's still a bit, so I'll do a bit more. And then you just hold, I don't know if you can see the flash of the fibre, but you hold it at an angle and you just use it to do touching turns all the way down. And you go down to just where the bend starts. Trim off your waist. Right, Coq de Leon. You take 4 or 5 feathers, 4 or 5 fibres. You do get the guys who count it all out. Sorry, that's my daughter in the background. I don't know if you can see that. You do get the guys that can count them out. I just go like around 4 or 6. I don't really care that much about how many there are. Try and get it on the top of the hook. One of the things you don't want is a horrible lumpy fly when you're putting the thread on. That looks about right. It's a bit scruffy, the tail, but I don't really worry about that stuff. I just managed to snip a bit off it as well. So then, what you're then going to do, you've got the tail tied in. You can see it's not exactly touching turns, so I'll just tidy that up a bit. That's more about me than the fly. So, orange hollow tinsel. I don't know if you can see that. You can see the glint on it. I just present it to the side of the fly and just catch it in if I can. If I can't and it's messing me around, you just go closer and it will catch in, right? Now the rule with tying stuff in is the stuff you're gonna use last, you tie in first. Right, so I've tied that in. Go back up to the bead. Where are we? A little bit of super glue. Right, tinsel, if it wraps, it'll slip, even if you tie it in. So just put a dab of super glue on the thread and just wind in a tag. The phone's actually really useful because I can see it better now than I can with my eyes. So you just wrap in a tag for a couple of mils down the fly, right? And tie that off. A couple of turns. It's glued down anyway, so it's going to stay there. and snip that off, snip off your waste. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to come down a bit until you got to where you want your tag to start, which I think is about there. And then from here on in, you're just starting to build a bit of a body. And at first, I would just try and get enough thread so that you can't see any of the orange underneath. It's a bit thread thirsty, this, but thread's not particularly expensive, right? Then what I will do, I've forgotten one material, which is, I use this stuff, Unifrench. It's gold braid, size small, and I use it for rib. So I don't want the rib over the tag. What I want is the rib over the thing. So what I do to get this to catch, I stick it in the slot. That's not a euphemism. To catch it, and it means it'll stay on the top of the fly. Now that's only because I want the fly to be symmetrical. Now from here, all you're doing is you're building up thread. Right? You're going up and down, up and down, up and down. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to build a taper towards the head. So I will carry on doing that, and I'll try and get it. I've got a bit of a dip towards the head now, and I'll just try and do that and get that stuck in there. And I am generally okay with that taper, I think. I just need to build it up a bit more. Right, so once I've built up an okay taper, I've still got to cover up some of the gold underneath it, which is problematic. It's a bit thirsty. You can use floss on this if you want to. That helps, but then varnishing down floss is a pain in the arse, so I just stick with thread. Then what you're aiming to do is wrap the braid in the Unifrench, and I'm aiming to get probably 3 segments in it. If I can fly this size, I should be able to get 3 in. Yeah, just about. And then tie that off. Just hold it tight, tie it off. Snip it off as close as you can. Build that up a bit around there. So you can see you've got the 3 segments in there. You've got your orange tip, your tail's looking pretty good, beads looking pretty good. Now at this point, what you could do, you could use dubbing, and you just put a really thin strand of dubbing on and wrap it around, and you'd have a dubbed fly. You could tie in CDC, which looks like that. This is from Cooksil, and you could tie it in as a hackle, and that looks really cool. Or you could varnish it, and that's what I'm going to do. So if I can find my tire, I use a Mattarelli tire. Some people have real problems with it, but effectively all you do, you lay it on the thread, hook it in. There's a hook at the top and a bend. Sorry, there's a hook at the top and there's a bend at the bottom. Catch it with a hook, put it on the bend, and then turn it so there's a figure 4 in front of you. You can't quite see the thread, but there is a figure 4 shape. You take the thread up to the bead, 1, 2, 3, unclip the butt, use the hook, or you get 2 fingers and you just tie it around so there's a loop. You can catch it around the bead, get your fingers out of the way, and then just tension it while it tightens, and that's it. Snip it off. So there you've got your fly. You can fish it like that. But with perdigons, what you want them to do is sink like bricks, and if it absorbs water, that slows it down a little bit. I mean, it's probably not even enough that you'd notice, but what most people do is put UV on there and they make it look really smooth. But like I said, UV soaks into it. It takes a lot of UV and it's too bloody expensive. So I just use varnish, just a very thin coat of varnish at first. And you can actually see there's some imperfections on the fly, which is a bit of a bummer. That little thing at the back, what are you? Let it dry for a bit and then just give it another coat. Give it 2 or 3 coats because it's quite liquid, this vineyard varnish. and that's your fly, all done. So what did that take? 7 or 8 minutes, and that's because I'm talking. So I think you can tie this in 5 minutes flat once you get the thing. How will it fish? Well, it will fish like that. It's got a nice flashy bead on it. It's got a segment and a hot spot, and at 4.6 that is going to take you down to the bottom straight away. Lots of the guys fish with similar patterns. The competition fishers, if you look in the magazines and stuff, they all fish with this kind of pattern. Lots of them fish with red tags. You can actually put a red wool tag on it as well if you really want to. You can put a hackle on it. You can put a dubbing on it. It all works really well. But black with a hot spot and a silver or a gold bead in loads of different colours. Loads of different bead sizes sets you up really well. So it's a really good basic one. So that's how you tie it, mate. If you've got any queries, give me a shout.